Okay, good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here with you today on behalf of the UfM to present these groundbreaking studies from the MedECC network of scientists. I apologize in advance because our Senior Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Gramenos Mastroianni, due to unfortunate circumstances, could not attend today, but I'll do my best to present the scientists and the MedECC network. Basically, the MedECC network is a network of independent scientists that the UfM has helped support since their setup a few years ago. In 2020, they released a groundbreaking study, which was the first ever Mediterranean assessment report. The main conclusions of this report is that the Mediterranean region is warming 21% faster than the global average. And this is an unequivocal warning that concrete action must be taken with urgency. I'll let you take a moment to sink in that information, but basically we know also that sea level is expected to rise by a meter by the end of the century, and that means that it will salinize vast plains, such as the Nile Delta, that will threaten the food security of millions of inhabitants of the Mediterranean region. I would like also to refer to the recent devastation we saw in Valencia and raise an awareness that most common occurrences, such as that ones, are expected to increase with frequency in the Mediterranean area, which is a region where a third of the population already lives in close vicinity to the sea and depends on its infrastructure for economic-related activities. There is already a wealth of knowledge at our disposal, thanks to the invaluable work of the MedECC network of scientists, and we must collectively push for comprehensive cross-border legal, policy, and economic changes. So today we are here to present two studies that represent the latest scientific findings on the impacts of climate and environment change in the regional coastal zones, and also on the Water-Energy-Food-Ecosystems Nexus. I will give the floor to scientists Piero Leonello from the University of Salento and Professor Mohamed Abdelmonem, that will present both studies and will open the floor for Q&A later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ines, for this excellent introduction. It is a pleasure to be here. We have this cooperation, strong cooperation with UfM and MedECC, robust cooperation, and this jointly organized event gives us the opportunity to describe our recent reports that, as anticipated, address important issues of the impacts, risks, and solutions that we can adopt in this climate change perspective. I apologize with the audience, but we can't stand up because we don't have our slides visible on the screens here. So our only chance it is to stay here to see what we are talking about. That has to say that MedECC has been quite a success so far. There being important political recognition by the parties of the Barcelona Convention in the Convention 22 and 23rd report, the first Mediterranean assessment report in 2022, in COP22, and the special report on coastal risk in COP23 have been endorsed. And also we can proudly say that we have been awarded the North-South Prize in 2020 of the Council of Europe. But going to the topic we're here today, climate and coastal risks in the Mediterranean. It is being a major effort. We have worked at that for about 2 years, 3 years if you include the period of selecting the authors, Authors are from all the different shores of the Mediterranean. We have 55 leading authors who adopt the same structures in authorship of IPCC. But much more than that, about twice as much contributing authors, and also we have expert reviewers that have contributed to the report. It is not a report only on climate, it is also a report on socioeconomic and environmental drivers in general. And we well know that socioeconomic drivers play an essential role in affecting our capability to achieve in the future a good health of ecosystems, a well-being of a society, and also a prosperous future. It is the Mediterranean, an area where there are strong contrasts and important issues such as increase of population and a very strong focus of a region economy on tourism. In general, the environment is overexploited. Here we mention fish stocks, but look at the coastlines. Very often they are in general overexploited. Then we have pollution and biological drivers. Pollution is actually, there are indications that because of regulation, technical evolution, some sort of pollution is decreasing. But plastic pollution is really a major issue. And the Mediterranean Sea is one of the seas where plastic pollution is highest on global scale. And then you have biological drivers, the so-called invasive species, non-indigenous species technically, that enter several different pathways in the Mediterranean and are a major risk for existing Mediterranean ecosystems. Of course, they interact with climate. For instance, it is well known that non-indigenous species tends in a warming Mediterranean Sea to find very favorable conditions. But climate change is the topic of this big conference here, and climate change in the Mediterranean is clearly showing a sign. I mean, we have warming and 1.5 presently with respect to pre-industrial, and unfortunately much more is expected if a very high emission scenario is not avoided. Warming of the atmosphere, of land, but also of the sea, with heat waves in both over land and over sea. We have a decrease of precipitation and a decrease of evapotranspiration. Large fraction of Mediterranean coastlines are already classified as water poor areas below the threshold for recommended by WHO for water availability per individuals. And this is a situation that is going to become worse. All expectations are along that direction. We have acidification, we have rising mean sea level, and a lot of activities and important resources concentrated along the coastlines. We have agriculture along the coastline experiences problems because of salinization of aquifers, and we have coastal erosion. You see a number of coastal erosion, average 23 meter retreat by the mid of this century. Mid of this century is not that far. And what you see here, you adopt some sort of a symbol similar to that of IPCC. It is that all trends are up. All these drivers are going to intensify. They have been already observed to have intensified, and they are expected to intensify much more. I used to say that in a very high emission scenario, the changes that we have observed so far are minor with respect to the future. Of course, there are many things that can be done. You can protect the shoreline by different tools, but it is clear from the analysis of the existing literature and reports that what is done, it is not sufficient. And particularly if you look to massive engineering structures, very often they are planned not accounting for future sea level rise, or at least with accounting for that really in very moderate terms. Natural-based solutions, well, very promising, very attractive, but you need to start a dialogue with the people for that, because generally they imply retreat, they imply to abandon some areas and let them back to ecosystems. So it is a complicated situation in which many actions, many adaptation solutions are possible, but not sufficiently implemented yet. So that's actually already an anticipation of my final statement. The take-home message is that mitigation and adaptation measures are insufficient. Are presently insufficient, but there are that are available. There are solutions and adaptations that are available. In order to implement that, you need cooperation at multiple levels. Cooperation among the different components of a society, cooperation among the different countries that are surrounding the Mediterranean area. Having said that, I leave the room to Mohamed Abdelmonem, which will report on the next slide.
Thank you, Professor. It was really a good opportunity for MedECC Group to start this work on the report, which is really have a special case for us, which is the nexus between the water, energy, food, and ecosystem. Not only the nexus, but also this interaction between climate change and the components of that nexus. Because this issue has been looked at several times, but we looked at it from different perspectives a little bit. So this is the report. It's about to be out very soon. So hopefully you will get a copy. But this is how it will look like. And the authors are there. We have more than 65 people working on that, 61 authors from 15 countries, 70% from the North Mediterranean, 22 from the Southern Mediterranean, 80% of non-Mediterranean. We have 45% women and 55 men. So this is the group of scientists who have worked on that one. So the table of content for that report really have 5 chapters covering most of the areas we will talk about now. So the objective of that report was really to analyze the significance of the pressure of on the water and energy and food and ecosystem in the Mediterranean. Some of the information have been provided before by my colleague, but also to present that interaction between the Wi-Fi nexus in the Mediterranean and identify impact of climate change on those components and provide adaptation and mitigation strategies for the Mediterranean and align Wi-Fi with the SDGs. At the same time, also look at the governance and policy integration and address regional varieties between the northern and the southern Mediterranean. And for sure, this have been also said, but the report emphasizes on the impact of climate change on the components of the Nexus pillars in the Mediterranean, and it all shows that it's really a serious situation, is a hot spot, and actions have to be taken seriously. And we will talk later about how we can try to do that without kind of hurting some other components of that nexus. So climate change and food security is an important component of that one. And it has been proven by the researchers and scientists in the Mediterranean, on the both north and south, how serious is decreasing the yield of different crops. In Egypt, for example, where I'm from, it has been shown that wheat production, maize, rice, some others, even also the livestock production, milk production have been decreased during to the heat stress and so on and so forth. Also other countries, Portugal, Italy, Greeks and France and others, some of the crops have more resilient, little bit than others, but some of them, which is really a symbol of the Mediterranean, like the olive, will be impacted very seriously. And this is where you really want to have a kind of a long-term strategy to look at how to deal with it. It's not about really knowing if tomorrow will be hot or rainy. This is the weather situation. You want to see the long-term impact of climate on the productivity of the main crops of the Mediterranean region. The concept of the nexus is about trying to see how to link to each other and how they impact each other. And this is where we talk about the cascading effects. And the cascading effects of the climate change on the components of the nexus is very important, because what happened, we'll give some few examples about that. What happens that when you have a temperature, higher temperature, sea level rise, less precipitation, this will not only have an impact on energy, but also it will have an energy, and it will have impact on food security, and also at the end of the day, as the livelihood of the whole population of the Mediterranean. So this cascading effect is very important to understand. Why you have to understand it better? Because when you design or tailor some of the adaptation or mitigation measures, you really have to consider that cascading effect. You might correct something, and then you can damage the other ones. And just this is an example from Egypt about a very simple illustration of the nexus. And this is the guy who's using a solar energy in the field, getting water from the canal or from the groundwater and using for agriculture. And this is how they all come in one very simple component. And for sure there is also some concern about that. I myself have a concern about sometimes using the solar energy for taking limited groundwater, because sometimes you give the people a chance to have a free energy source to uptake more or misuse the groundwater, which is also have to be considered when you tailor some of these. So it's not about just let us use the solar energy. It also have to be looked at for how this will impact the other resources. So the adaptation, mitigation, intervention for WIFI, we have 3 pillars on that one. We have the technological solutions, like we said, examples, and also natural-based solution. And natural-based solution really looked at how to develop varieties, crop varieties from the nature. Some of the wild, we call it wild parents, for the barley, for the wheat, for the rice, that are resistant to drought, resistant to heat, resistant to salinity, to make sure that they can adapt to the impact of climate change on the circumstances around. And also behavior change, and this is very important for the community of the Mediterranean. Now we have to look at how much we eat beef, meat, and look at some options. We go back maybe to some our Mediterranean diets, and where you have more vegetables and so on, and less products that have a very high carbon footprint. This is very important for us. And Wi-Fi is important, like we said, to look at the trade-off and synergies. And trade-offs and synergies are very important issue to be considered, because maybe that's what I would say. For instance, if you have an irrigation, it's very important to increase the food production, but at the same time can impact the energy. If you are making it, if you're using the water for generating electricity, for example, this will impact. Also will impact the water resources for a long-term sustainable use of the water. So when you use that one, you have to look at, if I'm using irrigation, let us use drip irrigation, let us use more sustainable water management schemes that will try to reduce the impact of trade-offs and increase the synergy more. Yes. So for sure we have in the report Nexus approach to and the SDGs. We looked at how they impact every one of those one, and the governance is very important component of the report. So I'm sure you have looked at that, and this is the final messages, and we thank you very much, and we'll be happy to answer your question. Thank you.
Please, are there questions? We have been a bit too short to miss a lot of details, but of course there are time constraints, and we'll be very happy to provide any further information that you might consider useful. I don't know, is there a microphone?
Hi, I'm a student from the United States, and I'm originally from an island off the coast of Maine. And so I'm very focused on like coastal climate resiliency and specific sort of solutions, actions that communities can take amidst effects of climate change. So in both of your presentations, I know that you mentioned some certain, maybe engineering changes that could be taken, but I was curious if there was maybe some more sort of very specific policies, changes that maybe perhaps individuals could propose to communities as I think about taking knowledge back to my town.
But was it a comment or a question? Okay, yeah, now I got it. Yeah. Specific action, all actions are locally specific to some extent. I think it will be, I'm not ready to provide a single ultimate weapon to solve all these problems. And actions are specific, and for some of these aspects also regional to local, not maybe in their consequences. Please think about plastic pollution, that of course plastic pollution is an example of something that has consequences at basis scale, in this case, but is actually a point source somewhere of land generally. And in that case, to reduce it is much more efficient to control it at the source than to try to compensate for it after the plastic has spread everywhere. That is an example. But I don't think I can provide, I'm not ready to provide a list of specific options. But the fact that in general, you need to assess and implement that across a dialogue at multi-level within the society. It is very important to to involve in this dialogue also the local or regional communities that are generally those are affected by how adaptation is implemented. Think about coastal structures, defense structures, or think about natural-based solutions. You need to implement that to have an evaluation of advantages and pros and cons on multi-sector, not just focusing on environment or focusing on economic sector. And you need to have that accepted and promoted by the local communities where they will be actually implemented.
Good afternoon. My name is Rafa Mayari. I'm from Jordan. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really enjoy when I listen to some people, they are really curious about these classical issues. My question is, we have 3 methods. The first one we talk about technologies, and the second one, the third one, which is the best one from my side, is behavioral change. So my question is, because we always believe that behavioral change is the key point to make a key changes, especially in our plan. So what do you recommend to make behavioral changes in our society, especially when we are talking about water, food, energy, in addition to the ecosystem? So how can we promote behavioral change in our societies? And yesterday, I see something that is very special at the back, the dead whale. When you put a wet whale in an environment, then you see the effects of climate change in marine lives that make people sad, thinking they manage to have an action. This is an example. So what do you recommend for us as a youth, especially youth in action, to make a behavioral change in our state, and how we can promote it, especially when we are talking about the consumption of the meat and another point? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very important question also because at the end of the day, the change will come from people. People have to change their behavior. Wherever they are in their position in the value chain of any of the products, if they are producers or are traders or are consumers. So they all, but I think changing behavior will not come alone, because some people are willing to do and some people are not willing. So you have also to have a policy to really drive some of the behaviors in a way that there is sometimes you have incentives, sometimes you have other tools and measures you can take to make people understand. Again, it's like you mentioned, awareness raising is very important, and also capacity building and looking at the education curriculum is very important, because it's really very hard to bring someone at a certain age and start changing his behavior. But if you start with the children in their schools to how they see the climate change and how they see the serious issue where the planet Earth is in now and how we can save that, I think it have also to start with education. So thank you very much for the comment. Thank you.
If my add, I think, of course, individual behaviors are a key point, but individuals must be put in the condition of having effective behavior, and being supported in their behavior. So they have to be in the context such that what they do and what they decide is really effective. I mean, you need also policies and financing and technical solutions to support the goodwill, to say, of individual, of citizens. Okay, thank you very much. I think the time is over. I think we are available if any of you have further questions. Thank you for that. And, the summary for policymakers of these 2 reports are published, I think. I think they are available today. I don't know if you can already download them from the webpage of MedECC, but if not today, it will happen soon. So I strongly encourage you to read those 2 summaries for policymakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.